into this thing. So you will know a tree by its fruit. In other words, so if the processes, if the programs I've talked about this, if your soul life, your inner man life is full of light, okay, this is the whole point. If you are, it says, if you are one of these who maintains justice and does what is right, if you are someone who keeps his hand from doing evil, you know, if you are full of light, your fruit, your actions will show that. You're an open book. This is the whole point. Whereas a hypocrite, you know, this is the whole point. You have to go a little deeper, and this is why you examine it, because sometimes you have to go a little bit deeper, and this is why sometimes you really need to examine or know someone. This was the whole idea of early church leadership, and this has always been the idea. You really need to know those who labor among you, because, you know, just, and this is why, and this is the whole point too with images, and I'm going to get into this, like TV or even, you know, electing your presidents on TV imaging is so unsound because you have no way of knowing, okay? Let me just throw this in here, and this is why, you know, because this has gotten really perverted. You know, we always say that, oh, what a man does doesn't matter. His character doesn't matter. Your character, another way of saying it. Your character, the programs that are running inside of you are what, it always says, a man's destiny. A man's character is his destiny. So in other words, if you're just a really wicked, evil person, you know, you're going to have wicked, evil actions, okay? And conversely. But the fruit thing, in the way we set up our government, you know, the whole point was they understood this because, see, one thing we got to understand something. We go to Europe today, people go and they look at all this beautiful art and these really cool castles. You have no idea, people, how absolutely despotic most of Europe was for most of its centuries. There were few little pockets of light, but for the most part, life under the kings was not really ever very pretty, especially if you were on the other side or if you were ever found yourself opposed to the kings. This was not... We were so blessed to be able to set up a representational form of government here where we don't have a king. We are the government by the people for the people, all right? You just don't know what a gift that gave us and how we are so losing it today. But this is why in the early times, the laws on the books, why it was so important for your governmental people, your town councils and in your... on your school boards and a lot, had to be people of integrity. And you had to know their fruit because these are the people that are going to make decisions for you. We have so decompartmentalized ourselves from the concept that what programs people have running inside them that produces their fruit has nothing to do with the decisions they're going to make that's going to affect me and my kids. Nothing could be further from the truth. And that was not the way our government was set up, all right? And it behooves people to really try to get back to this concept that you to know those. And this is not a witch hunt or judgmental. That has nothing to do with the point. The point is that you just, if you want to live in a peaceable kingdom, you better be sure that you're either ruled or giving your authority to people who also want to live in a peaceable kingdom by rules and by righteousness and Yahweh's laws or principles. Otherwise... the tears, it's not going to be pretty. Anyways, all right, I got to move on. I just can't. What I'm trying to say here. Okay, so he has this book out. This is from the 3rd century Syrian. I am Blicuus, whatever. I'm so sorry that my pronunciations are bad. Anyways, he starts out here, the gods and their peculiarities. In the first place, therefore, it is taken for granted that there are gods. Okay, now this is something that's really being discussed all over on YouTube, and different people are writing different things about this, and this is really important to understand. What in the world, where did we lose it? Where did we get so divorced from our early history and every culture of the world, every culture, people, understanding the different hierarchies and let me see if I can find some words, realms and hierarchies, did I say that are out there. And we all think that it's just, I don't know what, we're just totally Epicurean, eat and drink and tomorrow you die and whatever, doesn't matter. No, the ancients were completely, and to some extent, obsessed by the soul and the afterlife and the fact that this is not all there is by any stretch of the imagination. And they were much more interfacing with these other quote unquote gods. But what I'm trying to do, ferret out and examine, and okay, what are we talking about? What are we talking about, okay? Because it's not language that is politically correct or used today, all right? So anyways, take for granted there are gods, small g, and this is what I talked about. There are many gods. There are many gods, people, okay? But what is a god? I mean, what are we talking about? And when then you have the Lord God, the Most High God, saying, I am, the God of gods, okay? So what are the peculiarities of the superior races? Now this really, I love when I read something and all of a sudden the light goes, superior, oh, yes, that makes sense now. Because one of the problems with all this understanding, when you have people who really, want to skew it and spin it, and there's a lot of people, we live in an age where everything's coming out in the open, and Satan and his minions are doing everything they can to divert it, skew it, discredit it, whatever, still keep you away from the truth, okay? And a lot of it gets into racism. A lot of it gets into, what have I said before? I had a way of saying this. Elitism. Racism and elitism, when you get into humankind, are 100% not the heart of Yahweh God, okay? Where he said he made his house what we call a house of prayer for all nations, okay? And we're not just talking about the Israeli nation, okay? The superior races, these are talking about different races of created beings, other gods, okay? So they want to tell you that the white race is the supreme race and that the black race is, see, this is the problem, Satan, because we're so stupid, we don't understand, we allow him to use us as his tools to cause bloodshed and harm and hatred in the world amongst brethren, okay? We're all Adamic. Your skin color has nothing to do with any of this stuff, this esoteric knowledge and understanding, okay? So that really clicked in my mind. There are superior races. There are higher gods. There is a hierarchy. This is one of the hardest things to, even in our egalitarian kind of understand, that yes, and I guess we just have to really understand this. It is a gift from God to be able to have a government like we have, by the people and for the people. That's not really always the case. But you better make your laws justly and still one nation under God. So our founding fathers, they knew what they were doing, okay? But this whole concept of superior races is clear to me. The Bible talks about the 7 species. It doesn't matter what you call it, a race or a species or another order of created being. What we are talking about is something other than Adamites, okay? And I've been through all this. So, I mean, I'm sorry, people, we're not in Kansas. If you're like shocked at what I'm saying and like, oh my gosh, you just, you've been playing too much Candy Crush and have not been paying attention, okay? So, anyways, these superior races, because see, this is really interesting because a lot of the gods, I mean, if somebody's listening who is a little farther along, you have the really tall, and they're appearing all over the world. Oh, there's all this stuff going on, people. But and they're going to come back. We got to know. You better prepare yourself for what is soon to come upon the face of the whole earth. Oh my gosh. Okay. So anyway, let me just say this sentence again. In the first place, therefore, it should be taken for granted that there are gods. I ask then, what are the peculiarities of the superior races of these gods? By what are they differentiated from each other? Are we supposed, is it a cause of distinction in their energies or their passive motions? It's another thing you have to understand. Forces or matter. Many of these things, these gods are, all right, I'll get to this. Or is it a classification established by differences of bodies? The gods being distinguished by urethral bodies, the demons by aerial bodies, or the souls or bodies of souls. Even Paul, this is the point, Paul talks about this when he says there's different kinds of flesh. And he says there's one flesh, terrestrial flesh, there's celestial flesh. We're really talking about the same thing. You have to listen closely. You have to look at your words and see what's the concept behind this thing. So let me flesh this out, because this is in the hierarchy of all the things. And as you read classical, you understand that air and breath are way up there in the highest orders of things, and then it comes down a little more into the soul matter, okay, does it? And then finally you get here to the boots on the ground, okay? But these classifications are ethereal bodies. Other words would be celestial, an archangel from the highest heavens, unworldly, spiritual, of the air, ether. A lot of times in the ancients they were, creatures of ether, okay? Okay, now the demons, by contrast, another whole grouping of order of something out there, right? And we know that, the Bible's full of it. Jesus confronted demons all the time, cast them out. A lot of times it is in ethereal bodies existing or growing in the air or the atmosphere. Okay, now these are entities that live in the atmosphere rather than in the ground or in the water. Now, if you understand your four elements, you have air, fire, water, or air, fire, and matter, earth. Or, as another way Paul says, there are things in heaven, things in the high heavens, things on earth, things under the earth, and things in the sea. These are all classical ways of describing the other dimensions, okay? And, we better get up to speed, because a lot of times people, I'm telling you, it's getting repackaged to you, the youth today and the games they play, and it's not always getting repackaged to you in a godly way. They are spell casting, taking on animal spirits. All the most bizarre pagan things are going on under different guises, and it's destroying a whole generation. It's taken up because we couldn't give them a good answer. We couldn't explain to them what was going on. And this whole new, and Harry Potter comes on the scene, he's talking about all this stuff, and it's like fantasy. No, it's not fantasy, people. I'm sorry. Okay, we've got to get up to speed. But, okay, rather than the ground and water, and souls are bodies. Okay, we have a soul, we're a body. Soul and spirit. Our body, unfortunately, that's what happened to us when our fall. We got trapped down here, like under the table, not in the lowest form of dense matter. We can't fly. We can't get out of here. The only way out of here is to die. Okay? But if you read your Bible, other entities, they can come and go. Jesus went up to the highest heaven and he went down to Sheol. He was like all over the place in the dimensions, okay? So, but one of the best ways today to understand demons, and this is a really important thing we need to understand, is it's a psychic power, okay, versus a celestial power. Okay, now I'm going to get through some of this stuff. Suppose then we say that certain individuals affirm that the gods are pure mental essences and that the demons are psychic beings participating of the mind. One of the things Freud did, and see, this is another little trick of the devil. We were getting close to some of this stuff. A lot of this stuff was coming out again, but he just sort of took it, he repackaged it. Freud, in his whole concept, the soul, there are many levels to the soul, and you can operate on a total animalistic soul level. You can enlarge your soul to be, communing with the soul of God in the sense of you can be totally pure and free and full of light, okay, or full of darkness, okay. These are real physics to these things. We can't just keep thinking this is all a mind game and none of this has really got any real boots on the ground or real. No, there really are real entities with real properties that do real things, that are in obedience to Yahweh and doing things, or they're working for the dark side, okay, just like people do, okay? And if you're caught in it, I'm telling you right now, this is why I try to start with prayer. It's as close, you can go in with your Father and close the door. And nothing is more powerful than the name of Yahweh and the blood of Yeshua. You just go to your Father and say, God, I am in deep doo-doo. I've opened some doors. I don't know what's going on in my life. You go to the Father. He will get you out of it. You pursue what is good and true, and you humble yourself. You say, I got myself in a real mess because these are stronger than you. This is the whole point with the strong man. He comes in. These entities, man, once they get a grip of you, it's gonna take a higher power to get you free. But praise the Lord. That's what Yeshua did. He totally was able to have dominion from the lowest depths of Sheol up to the highest heaven. There is no place that you can be that he cannot free you and set you upon a rock. Oh my gosh, this stuff is so real and powerful. Okay, now, who is a disciple? There's one guy here who was a disciple of Plato. He taught himself these doctrines. He considered the heavens as divine, and the substance of the divine nature was pure mind and absolute. And this is one of the things of Kabbalah, that God he's spirit. He is pure essence. He is like, they call him Pythagoras called him the monad, gave him the name of the monad as God. He is the ultimate reality, thought, okay, which is way more powerful than the thing that is made, okay? But he described the stars as visible divinity. See, this is something we really need to get up to speed on, because the watcher angels, these quote-unquote aliens, that we've got to understand what's going on. These are not aliens or higher life forms that seeded us and they're coming back to help us and all this kind of crap. Many of these entities that people are interfacing with today, these ascended masters, are fallen angels. They are fallen, and they're not only they're fallen angels, which is a category, they're demonic entities, they're psychic entities. That's why these psychic, when people see visions and they, and they see these grotesque things, these are real psychic images, these things, and they're parasites, and they will play with your mind. Okay, I can only skim through some of this stuff. But what I want you to get to this point, he also described the stars as visible divinities. Okay, this is something we need to understand. When it uses the sun, the moon, and the stars, these are actually gods that he created on the fourth day. He put them in a visible firmament, and he gave them jobs. And he said, you're to do this. And if you read Enoch and the heavenly luminaries, Enoch was the first, one of the greatest prophet sages, that ever lived, and he got it all, and he wrote it down. That's why in the ancients, I can't go into this whole thing. I have a YouTube on Enoch you should really listen to. Give you a lot of information about him. No one strode the Apocrypha like Enoch. He was the colossus of all this understanding. But anyways, so there are literally gods, the sun, the moon, and the stars. And this is really deep. And this is why it gets into the whole point. A lot of these are runaway entities at this point. And this is the whole point with Israel, that many of us, we are going to replace the sun, the moon, and the stars. When he's going to roll up the heavens like a scroll, and just kind of get rid of them. He's just going to wipe the slate clean. All these entities that are in total disobedience and have done things and have made themselves to be, they have masqueraded as the gods much more down here and taken whole nations and whole people groups and whole things to the side. He's just going to wipe the slate clean, and we, lo and behold, we're going to shine like lights in the firmament. This is not some little fairy tale, oh, isn't this a nice story thing? This is literal, okay? So if you want to, because you're either going to go down, 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 down. Your energies, wherever you are, when the roll is called up yonder for you, your energies, and I use that in the sense of what programs are running in you. Okay, it's the best way I can describe it today. Is if you're full of darkness, that dark, it just weighs you down, 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 down. No impure or unclean thing can get up into the higher heavens. But if you can keep yourself, pure before the Lord and run the race, as Paul says, I finished my course. You're destined to be one of these, the new luminaries, okay, so anyways, let me keep moving here. But the demons were depicted as of a psychic nature, okay? And this is the problem if you read Jubilees. There had been so much intermingling of species. This is the problem. These are the viruses. This is where evil comes from. This is the whole problem. When Jesus, in the Genesis record, testifies that after everything was made, these things, everything was good. It was great. It was just the way he wanted it. And he said everything is to reproduce and multiply after its kind. Well, that just didn't always happen, okay? I'm going to give you this quick little, and that's the whole story of the flood. This is from the flood apocryphon. This is from a Dead Sea Scrolls fragment, 4Q370, and that's a whole quote of what it says about the flood. And the windows of heaven emptied out rain, and he destroyed them by the flood. Therefore, everything perished on the dry land, right? Men, beasts, birds, and winged creatures died. Okay, and the giants did not escape either. Okay, so there was, this is truth, people. There were giants in the earth in those days. This is a whole problem, people that were between angelic watcher angels and human women, creating a demigod, half human and half angelic order, race of giants. And they were wicked, okay? This is the story. You don't think, the story of Jack and the Beanstalk. You think it's a little fairy tale. Oh my gosh, people. All right, this is my point. So in Jubilees, it talks about after the flood, and he physically removed these things from the earth, all these wicked, re-engineered, bioengineered, genetically engineered. Unfortunately, a lot of the psychic energies and powers and soul lives and programs of these things were still in the atmosphere. And it's a great verse in Jubilees, and Noah's like freaking out because he sees that these things are still dogging his kids and their offspring. They're not totally out of the woods yet. And and so he petitions Lord. He said, God, this isn't fun. There's no level playing field here. I can't have my kids living righteously before you and, try to, start this thing all over again with a clean slate if they're constantly being dogged by these entities. And God, basically hears him and says, all right, okay, fine, I'm going to lock away, I must like 90% of them and leave just 10%. And we're only dealing with the 10%. It's crazy. But they are multiplying in psychic power. Okay, but all right, now, demons are depicted of a psychic nature, subordinate to that of the gods. They're lower on the totem pole, and therefore subject to emotion and perversion. Yeah, that's the story, like human beings. But at the same time, sharing in a degree in the power and the intelligence of the gods. So it's a very interesting scenario, and ancient literature in the mystery schools on both sides, esoteric understanding, have a lot to say on that whole category and those entities. Now, I want to say this in 5 minutes. So are gods then separate from demons by the distinction of bodied and unbodied? If, however, only the gods are incorporeal, and incorporeal means you're not in a physical body, okay? How shall the sun, the moon, and the visible luminaries in the sky be accounted as gods? What is the bond of union that connects the divinities in the sky that have bodies with the gods that are unbodied? Because there are two. This, if you read Paul carefully, there's not only celestial flesh, terrestrial flesh, then there's the flesh of, and I wish I had the verse in front of me. And I saw that he makes distinctions here, okay? Because some of them, this gets into the whole idea of the garments and the coverings and all this stuff. But I have to say this because what we have to understand now is that this is the world that we have to begin to wrap our minds around. And if you don't think that Moses did, this is all over Moses when he's telling the people that this people will rise and play the harlot with the strange gods of the land. Okay? Now this is where I think I'm finally going to get to next week, and I've been trying to get up to this point of what is an idol? What was going on? What were they doing? What was this whole making of idols, abominations? Let me see this. Abominations to the Lord. Okay? And that they sacrificed to demons who were not gods, to whom they have not known. And, okay. but demons, see, this is the whole thing of what an idol is. It's one of these words that has Hasatan has so changed, so that you have to dig deep in order to begin to really understand what was going on. And I think I finally really do. But it comes from a word nyack. It's properly a pouring over. What you usually get, it's a covering. It's a pouring over. A fusion of metal, gold, silver, brass, or iron. By implication, a libation, a league, a covenant. You can sometimes, it's a veil, it's a coverlet. But what it really is, okay, oh, here it is. Deuteronomy 27:15, curses the man who makes an idol or a molten image, an abomination to the Lord, the work of the hands of the craftsman, and sets it up in secret. Okay, this is the thing, because it's going on today. It's never gone away. But this is the point. What it really is, it's a secret satanic pact. What it's really talking about in the pouring, in the libation, because see, a lot of these things are done when you do this, entering into a pact with other, there's a ritual. Like going back to the mantra. Remember I told you about this whole idea of the mantras, and that a combination of, believed to be a spell or weapon of supernatural power, okay? This whole concept of a libation is a ritual, a pouring of liquid as an offering to a god or spirit, or in memory of those who have passed on. It's a ritual, a covenant with evil. It says it's poured out. This is why you get in the whole thing of shedding men's blood, the pouring out, and satanic. There's such a gross ritual, the ultimate of human sacrifice and pouring out blood. You are making pacts with very wicked, fallen entities, and you just need to knock it off. I mean, this is the whole point. So what I'm trying to say is, it's not making a little statue. We've kind of totally made it this thing that they were just crafts that we're making out of wood or stone. You know, these little idols, little 10-inch things. No, I mean, that was probably the most watered down, finally, you could carry your little idol with you in your pocket kind of thing. No. What we are talking about in the making of an idol is entering into a secret satanic pact, a web of deceit, which means a covering. And this is the idea. And there's rituals to cover this, and you think you do it in secret, but the Lord sees. Okay? So on that note, I just want to say, God have mercy on all of us, all right? Because we are in very dark times. The Luciferians are pretty much running the show again. But I have no fear, because I know who my Yahweh God is. I serve the Most High God. I can go to my house. I can enter into a quiet place. This will be hidden in God, in Christ, okay? Nothing in all heaven and earth can get through the ranks that the Lord has surrounded me or his saints with. People, we have nothing to fear, but we do need to expose evil. We need to educate people today. It's a very serious situation. America, I cannot believe that this is the country I live in, which was once a New Jerusalem. We have a lot to repent of. This is the whole point. Put on sackcloth and ashes. Every person should really be on their knees in their house of prayer with the Lord in whatever capacity, saying, okay, God, okay? Because we have really pissed off Yahweh Elohim. So on that note, I'm going to end. Hey, have a great evening, and I hope you check out this show again on YouTube or some of my other videos on the channel. God bless you in Yahweh's name, in the Yahushua HaMashiach's name.